Hello, Molly here, your host for the Say It Skillfully podcast. Delighted to be speaking with leaders, CEOs, entrepreneurs, elite athletes, artists, and professionals like you who open up about what's been hard, defining moments and learnings and finding their true north and succeeding on their terms. Can you be living the dream in your first job out of college? My guest today is living proof of it and a lifelong creative fashion designer and advocate for following your dreams. The 2024 Summer Olympics have wrapped, and I, for one, was for sure obsessed about the gymnastics. And little did I know, I was literally seeing my guest dreams in action. Paris was her third Olympics as one of the creative geniuses behind the stunning women's patriotic blinged out leotards. She had her start as well in Ithaca at Cornell University. I am thrilled to introduce a fellow proud alum and design director for the elite sportswear company, designing for the best athletes in the world, Jeanne Diaz. Jeanne, welcome to Say It Skillfully.
Thank you for having me.
So I read about you in the Big Red magazine, and thank God I didn't miss that edition because sometimes I do. And I thought, no way, she's designing the leotards for the gymnastics team. Dream job?
Absolutely my dream job. I never imagined being anything other than a designer when I was growing up. So this combined with my passion of gymnastics, it just really merged my two biggest passions together. So dream job all around.
Yeah, so I think this is exciting. And I have so many questions about the whole designing and the leotards. We are going to delve into that. I do, this show is when we speak up and we're grounded in ourselves, it means we get to know ourselves. And I just want to give people permission to really find their true norths and do what they think they need to do, not what they think their parents should do or their teachers think they should do. So, you have nurturing a young family. You're going to be going on your fourth Olympics. And you just have this great glow. There's no stressed outness. And maybe you fake it really well, but I love that about you. So take folks through, this small town of Wyomissing, Pennsylvania, where all these pieces of the puzzle came together.
Yeah.
So take us through it.
So I came from a family that was really focused on science. So my dad is an oral surgeon. He's retired now, but he was an oral surgeon. My mom was a microbiologist, and then she became a science teacher after having kids. My brother, his profession now, he's an engineer. So came from a family that's just very focused on the sciences. And I just never saw myself doing anything but design. I loved sewing growing up. I would sew little outfits for my stuffed animals. And I would have little sketchbooks of my own little collections, like fashion collections. But even though my parents were very much like science based, they really encouraged my brother and I to be creative. We always had art projects out. Like I remember our basement was always such a mess and it probably stressed my mom out, but she knew the importance of creativity. We would make paper mache crafts growing up, and just all of that I think really cultivated who I am today.
Yeah, that's crazy. The sewing stuffed animal. So I had this teddy bear. My mom, we were very fair. So we each had two sisters. We each had a teddy bear. Mine was creatively named Berry, like Bear, Berry.
Love it.
I had a mouse. It was Mousy. And so my mom had knit out of some flannel fabric, pinstripe, like a little overall outfit for my bear. So was your sewing, were you doing patterns? Like how were you? This is really fascinating that so young you were into it.
Yeah, I would start just by hand sewing. But once I got into, I remember specifically the summer between sixth and seventh grade, I knew that I was going to get the opportunity in seventh grade to take a home economics class in junior high. And I knew this from my older brother, had a friend, just a neighborhood friend, and she showed me this bear, a stuffed bear that she sewed in her home ec class. And I was like so excited about that. And so I was like, oh my gosh, in true me, like type A fashion, I was like, well, I need to know how to sew before going into this sewing class. I don't want to learn then. I want to know going into it so I could like do cooler things. So I enlisted my grandmother, my dad's mom, to teach me how to read patterns and how to sew on a sewing machine in that summer. And I will never forget exactly where I was, where we were sitting in her kitchen, and just her being like so patient and teaching me and really passing on her skills to me. I'm very fortunate that both of my grandmothers have that creativity and sewing in their blood. Unfortunately, I was not lucky enough to know my mom's mom. She passed away when I was 4 months old, but she started a tailoring shop that has now transitioned into a hardware store that's still in existence in my family. And she sewed military uniforms during World War II when my grandfather was off in the Pacific. So just having her stories kept alive through my mom, and I have like lots of little dolls that she made for my mom and for me, like these beautiful crocheted bedspreads that my mom has, and just all of that and her stories really inspired me a lot. And it's funny, before we rolled before you started recording, you said fake it till you make it. And that's actually something that my grandmother did do. So when she was um, at the, factory, I guess you'd call it, trying to get the job to make these military uniforms, the sewing floor manager made her sit down and prove that she knew how to use the sewing machines. And I guess she didn't really. And my mom said that she just sat down and her thing was just fake it till you make it. And she did. So that has stuck with me through all the years. But yeah, it was really my dad's mom that taught me how to sew and got me really excited about a potential career in fashion.
That's crazy to be at that age, because it's most people at that age are fairly oblivious. I mean, I was naive to think I would be like amazing because we did gymnastics as a kid. So I'm going to be a gymnast as an adult type of thing. Like that's how delusional I was, right? So tell me about the rest. Were there other kids that nurtured this passion with you? Did you feel like you fit in at school? I'm just curious what that was like as a young person.
Yeah. I definitely didn't struggle to fit in, but I knew that it was not the norm, that I knew exactly what I wanted to do, and I just did not waver from that. I was surrounded by friends who really didn't know, and I had no doubts that I was going to be a designer. And I'm very much the type of person, because of the family that I come from too, that if I set my mind to something, I'm going to do it. There's no other option. So I think that helped me focus too, because it just cleared out any other distraction of any other option. And I could just set my sights on my goal, and I just had a clear path for it.
Crazy. Any naysayers? Was everybody like, go, Jeannie, go?
Everyone was so supportive.
Wow.
I really think the small town that I'm from, why I'm missing, um, because it is so small and everybody knows each other, everyone's so tight knit. It really is a supportive environment too. It's, I guess, yeah, in a way, there can be some competition, like kids are competitive. But I think fashion design, creativity, it's such a like niche thing that everyone was so supportive. And I think especially now, seeing my name out there and like the publicity that me and my company are getting and that I'm, behind it, the outpouring of support of people that are just like, oh, I remember when you said you wanted to do this and you did it, it's just like such a full circle moment.
I love it. I think that is so fabulous. So how did you make your way to Ithaca and Cornell? Because as a young person, I know that you want to do this, and I don't know, I've heard of other more design schools, so I'm just
Yeah.
curious how you picked Big Red.
Yeah. So again, my brother, so he's 2 years older than me, and he obviously went on college visits before I was even really thinking about college. And I went on all of them with him. And an aspiring engineer, Cornell was a natural fit for him. And, we went to all the Ivy League schools. And of course, my head was like, oh man, like, I really want to go to an Ivy League school because it's like the status of an Ivy League school and, all that comes with it, which now is like,
whatever.
I kind of roll my eyes at, but I know there's some really awesome opportunities that come from it too.
Right.
And I just remember thinking like, oh, it's such a shame that these schools don't have fashion design. Well, little did I know. So we step on Cornell's campus and I just immediately fell in love. I am not a big city girl. I'm from a small town. We vacationed growing up at lakes. So it's just like a natural environment for me. And setting foot on that campus, it felt like home.
Wow.
And when we did the tour and we walked past the human ecology buildings, the tour guide mentioned there's a textiles and apparel program. And I was like, no way. There's no way. So I looked into it immediately. And I was probably like in 9th grade. So immediately looked into it and thought like, oh my gosh, like now everything I do from here on out has to be to get me closer to getting into Cornell. Like that, I had no other goal. So I just was like, I'm going to do this. So every class I took, every move that I made was like, how can this get me to Cornell? And I knew I was not naturally as just like book smart as my brother. He's like my baseline for just like if you have siblings, I feel like and he's the type of person that like he's just so logical, but he's also so talented in like the arts. He can look at you and draw you as if it's a picture. He's incredibly talented. And I always had to study. I always had to study so hard and like take a million notes and like make myself flashcards. I remember in high school sitting up at night like in my bed like making flashcards, and like that's how I would study. A very visual learner, and I feel like that doesn't come as a surprise to much people. But my SAT scores were not great, but I wrote a fabulous essay. I think like just my passion comes through. And I feel really fortunate that Cornell doesn't put so much emphasis on those standardized test scores, especially for the creative majors. They like kind of take more weight on other areas. But yeah, the second I set foot on Cornell's campus, I was like, this is home. This is home for me.
That is so awesome. So I'm wondering because, I think design, fashion, it's very dreamy. Of course, all of us dream about it. So when you get on campus, I'm curious, the curriculum, like what are the basics of design? Because I imagine you're creating as a kid and then you get in there, like what is the structure here? And I'm just wondering what you took away in your academics.
I actually really loved the fact that we weren't just solely like a typical art school program. Maybe in a way it put me at a disadvantage if I wanted to have a more traditional fashion career, but it gave me everything that I needed for the career that I have right now. But um, it, there was very much like painting, drawing classes, and pattern making classes, and different types of pattern making. So there's flat pattern, but then there's draping where it's like kind of more free form with the fabric and a dress form. There was more computer drafting of patterns. So we learned all the basics. Back then it was maybe a little bit behind in the times. That it was not as, we didn't have like laser cutters and all the really cool knitting machines that they have now. That I'm like, man, I wish I could go back now and be through the program again just to kind of see what kind of cool stuff they have. But um, I still wouldn't trade it for anything. Yeah.
That's amazing. So coming out of school, I don't know if it's super competitive. I kind of sense that it's not the easiest thing to get a job and be picked. So how did that all transpire and you end up, frankly, back in your own backyard?
Yeah. Yeah, the fashion industry is definitely, in general, a lot of who you know. And I learned that very quickly in my internship. I interned at Ralph Lauren for the runway collection between junior and senior year that summer. And that was also my dream. Ralph Lauren was my favorite designer. And I thought, coming into college, I'm going to work in New York. That's what you do as a fashion designer. But I interned that summer and was surprised at the things that I learned, but also really proud of myself for even getting that internship after realizing that one of my fellow interns, her parents owned a factory that Ralph Lauren makes his samples in. Another one was the daughter of like one of the first Ralph Lauren models. Another one was the daughter of a watch designer at Ralph Lauren. So just, I'm sure, they all seemed like they had their own qualifications, but I didn't have connected parents. Like my parents lived in Wyomissing, Pennsylvania, and they were a doctor and a teacher. So I felt like I really got this internship on my own accord, like because of my talents and what I have to offer, not because of nepotism. But I learned that there's a lot of nepotism in the fashion industry in New York. It was very much a lot about who you know, not what you know. And I just didn't want to be a part of that. I felt like I want to be somewhere that I'm surrounded by people that are there because they're talented, not because of who they are. So I pivoted, like kind of where I was looking at jobs. And actually, I always knew elite sportswear was in my backyard, but I never really thought about it as like, I guess I didn't think they would have an extensive design department. I mean, I don't know what I thought. Like, obviously, the leotards don't just like crop up out of nowhere, but I guess I didn't think there would be like a whole team of people for such a niche thing. But my dad really encouraged me to think outside of the box and consider elite sportswear, especially because then I could be home. Which he knew, maybe I wasn't willing to admit it so much, but he knew that was important to me. And I'm just so appreciative that he did encourage me to do that. And actually, Elite Sportswear didn't have an opening. I just kind of forced my way in.
Before we get into the forced entry, As a young person, this is the go with the big company, the big brain. Everyone wants to work at Ralph Lauren. You are there with your button seat at Ralph Lauren.
Mhm.
It sounds like you were just like, no question, this isn't right for me. Was there any was anyone like trying to really win? Like, wait a second, you should reconsider.
Yeah. Pretty much all my friends that were in my major that were going to be in New York after school would have loved for me to also be there, but they also know, and I know how decisive I am. If I decide something for myself, I don't question it. And I don't take a long time to decide things.
Nice.
So, and I think my closest friends, I surround myself with people who do respect that. And so my closest friends just really wanted the best for me. I think, of
Nice.
course, looking back, yeah, it would be really fun to be young and single and in New York City,
Right.
like
For sure.
thinking back now, but there wasn't a better choice for me than what I did do.
That's awesome. Okay, forcing ourselves into a company that doesn't have a job opening. For the folks who are listening, they're like, well, there's no opening. How did you do that?
Yeah. So I just am really convincing in writing. And I think I really attribute it back to when I was in high school and also in college, just making sure that I could really wow people on paper, but then back it up in person too. So I think what intrigued the decision makers at Elite Sportswear at the time was that I was a designer, or I am a designer that is also analytical. So as much as I say, it's my parents and my brother that are like sciencey and analytical, there's a part of me that's that way too.
Yeah.
I just wouldn't want a career out of it. So I think that was intriguing that I could be a creative person that is also logical and like business focused. But also I'm a black belt. I have just a variety of this, like, I don't know, a foundation of these sports that I did growing up that have given me these life skills. So I'm a black belt. It took me I started when I was 7 and got my black belt when I was just shy of 18. So um, took me a long time, 11-ish years to get my black belt. So that takes determination, that takes dedication, it takes focus, it takes sacrifice. So I think all of those attributes, I think the decision makers at Elite Sportswear at the time saw those things, and I was able to speak to those things as to how that sport really helped me and shaped who I am and who I could become as a future leader at Elite.
Okay. You're 7 years old and you're like, Mom, I don't want to go play tennis or soccer. I want to get my black belt. How did that happen?
My brother.
We love your
So
brother.
I really do love my brother. He did karate. He was the first student at the karate school that still exists today in Wyomissing. But he did karate, and I was like doing ballet at the time. And I will never forget this. This is so silly, but I didn't really like ballet because I was shy, and you had to like do your part, just like dance in by yourself in front of everyone, and I didn't like that. And also you had to like take turns, and this one girl cut me in line, and I didn't like that, and I was like, I'm done with this. And I just really wanted to do whatever my brother was doing. And so I was like, yeah, I want to do karate. And of course it got hard. Like when I'm like a 13, 14-year-old girl, I'm like, I don't really want to do this anymore. But my parents did not let me quit. They told me, like, if you're going to do karate, then you have to get your black belt and you can't quit. And of course there were times where I was like, man, this sucks. But I am so glad that they never let me quit. Having a black belt is probably like one of the best things, one of my best kept secrets about myself.
Totally. That's just like kick butt, man. That is take no prisoners. Wow. If you had said to me, pick a sport you did, like that would be like the last. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. That is so cool. Okay. So you get in, you get the job.
Mhm.
And so you started as a young person. Just take us through the career pathing, learnings, epiphanies.
Yeah. I think I'm really lucky to work with the incredible family that we have at Elite Sportswear. They're all very like-minded people. And actually the two closest colleagues that I have today were two that were there at the beginning of my career. So one of my fellow designers in the gymnastics division, she has been with Elite Sportswear for 30 plus years. And then my other colleague, she's the one who was really assigned to like training me and passing on all of her knowledge to me. She has been with Elite Sportswear now for 20 years. Wow. So it's really a testament to how awesome of a place the company is to work for. They just really value us as humans first. But I say I'm lucky to work with them just because we've built it. It transcends being colleagues. It really is a family. And amazing. The fact that they were so willing to take me under their wing, and not there's no sort of like cutthroat competition. There's no like viewing me as like the younger, like any sort of threat. It was just very much a nurturing environment. And I think I owe a lot of who I am in my career now to them.
That is so fabulous. It doesn't sound like you did, but let's go out there. Like I remember at that age, I knew absolutely everything. I never made a mistake and I knew everything. So it sounds like you came in with a lot more humility. Did you have these moments where you're like, I went to an Ivy League school and I know how to do all this or any of that?
Every day. Yeah. There's still a piece of that in me that the CEO of Elite now, who was not the CEO back then when I started, but he has become just a great mentor of mine. And he said to me, lions don't concern themselves with the opinions of sheep. And I think about that all the time. And, I think he would want me to be humble. And he's definitely imparted that on me too. There's multiple things I could tell you that he has said to me that has shaped me in my career. But that one thing really sticks with me because like, he's definitely not telling me to dull my shine. But just that mentality, that lion mentality, but that's never going to go away. And I think part of that, I went to an Ivy League school. Like maybe I don't say it like that, but I definitely have that in the back of my mind. Like, wait, you can't dull my shine. Like, you don't know.
So that's really great to be upfront about. Talk to us about mistakes you made. We all have these mortifying moments. Just share a few for listeners so we can make you even more real.
Oh, I've definitely made mistakes. Especially so I now manage a team of designers. And we have vacations various times, and then I'll have to step in to do some of their work, just cover them while they're on vacation. So there have definitely been times where I'm like deep into my career, and then I'm like filling in for one of the designers that reports to me, and like I've like messed up one of her projects like multiple times, and like the production floor is like, who did this? Well, oh, that's me. But I've found
Oh, so funny.
that if you own it and you just make it right then, and you're willing to do whatever it takes to make it right, and you're not just covering it up,
Yeah.
that has served me very well. I think really what's helped is that foundation of the leadership at Elite, creating this culture where it's not a blame culture, um, which has then given me the freedom to be like, yeah, that was me. That was my bad. Like, I will fix it, whatever. And then it's no harm, no foul. And then no one dwells on it. And I've taken that approach with my team as well. So it's very much like this collaborative environment of, just getting the work done. And if you make a mistake, you learn from it and you move on.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Wise words. So transitioning from the doer designer to the managing of talent and enabling creativity. Talk to us about that transition. Supernatural for you? Was it hard?
It was so hard. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done.
Oh no.
Because being a designer and a creative designer, it's like an extension of your heart on paper.
Mm-hmm.
And out there, it's a physical thing. So it's very hard to step back. And it's not that I'm not like that I completely removed myself from being a doer. That was the one thing that, as I was transitioning into this role, that I made it very clear that I would not ever give up being a doer in some capacity, not to the degree that I have been, because you just can't.
Mm-hmm.
But that was one thing that the current CEO at Elite Sportswear, his name's Matt, he told me that I need to pass the ball. He's big on like basketball references. And he told me, I remember we had like a really great kind of like heart to heart conversation. He told me, it's time that you pass the ball. And I think what helped that conversation was that he was like, he honored the fact that he knew how hard that would be for me. And he kind of like let me do it at my own speed. Like he recognized that that's something that is the next natural progression in my career, but didn't force it and let it happen when it was meant to happen and when I was ready for it to happen, because I wouldn't be a good leader if I wasn't ready for that to happen.
Yeah.
So I definitely had to like think long and hard about what I wanted for my career and how does being a design mentor look for me, and how does that make me feel just as fulfilled as being the one doing the work.
Yeah. Great maturing. Great to have someone on the sidelines with you, pushing you, but not too fast.
Yeah.
Because that could be a train wreck. Okay. Can we dive into the whole designing leotards? So, it's so funny. Way before this last Olympics, I remember talking to my sisters, and we grew up in leotards. And my sister was like super state champion, but we noticed like they never have to pull it out of their butt. Their leotards are like glued to their skin. So just talk to us about like what's involved with all that. And I mean, it's just the most beautiful thing, and so much functionality out of it as well.
Yeah. So at Elite, we really pride ourselves on being the best in class. We're larger than all of our competitors. We've been in the business longer.
Wow.
We have really a proprietary fit formula that gives us that next to skin fit that we're really known for. That's why we are the athlete's first choice. And it's why we've had such long-standing partnerships with the national team. So yeah, we really make sure that we are creating not only a beautiful garment, but a functional garment. So yeah, you won't see an athlete wearing a GK leotard that has leg line issues.
So the crystals. We have to tell folks about I want to say it was close to 10,000 of these things. So, just talk about the inspiration, right? How did you get, because it's always the US of A. We're trying to do US of A. It's red, white, and blue forever, right? And so I am just curious that where do you derive the designs? To what extent do the individuals of that year, weigh into that at all?
So because we start the process so far in advance, it's about 2 years in advance, we won't know who is on the Olympic team.
Right.
They only get selected a month before the Olympics. And by that point, all of the leotards are produced. So we do take athletes' opinions into consideration and their wants and needs. But we have our finger on the pulse of what these athletes like day in and day out. So that's not hard for us to kind of incorporate their feedback in a way. But yeah, we start about 2 years in advance. And the cool thing about this year's host city is it really lended itself to being inspiration. Not all host cities are good inspiration for a fashion collection without it being like kitschy. So knowing, Paris, Paris is the fashion capital of the world. Sorry, New York, but it just is. So we were just so excited as a design team. I was so excited to come up with really the mood boards that laid the foundation for how we approached this collection. It was very much driven by high fashion, by Parisian couture, even Parisian architecture, the Art Nouveau era. We drew inspiration from that, but also knowing that this is the Olympics, you are representing your country. How do we merge this very Parisian inspiration with Team USA? So we need to show up as Team USA. If you didn't see that USA on their hip, you want to pick out that athlete and say, oh, that they're from the United States, obviously. Look at their leotard. So that's really what we set out to do. And I think we accomplished that.
It was gorgeous every night. I mean, because we were obsessed. Like, for sure, we were obsessed in our family, and this was before I read the article, and I was like, these are like so unbelievable, and just I know and it's a bit of a dress for success when you're an athlete. Whatever, you want to feel like you're there winning. So you do the men's too. So just talk about designing for men and women. I mean, bling aside, right? They're not wearing Swarovski crystals.
Yeah, no, they're not. So really the approach is the same, that it has to be a functional garment, and these athletes need to feel their best and most confident in stepping out to that world stage. That's arguably one of their most important moments in their athletic careers. So while we want the athletes to feel confident in what they're wearing, after they put on that garment, we don't want them to be thinking about the garment anymore. So we want it to be comfortable. We want it to be functional. We don't want areas to be tight or riding up or seams ripping, any of those things. So we approach the men and the women both the same in that regard.
Yeah, that's so cool. You have tracked, and I didn't know this, Simone, for many, many, many years. So just share a bit about, you've observed her over decades, what you've learned from her. Any thoughts about her?
She is one of one, just incredible and so humble and sweet. And what I love about her is how decisive she is. I love designing for someone that knows what they want. She has never, ever once been difficult to design for. She will sometimes she'll give me an idea that she wants. And like, I remember I think it was classics, like back in maybe 2019. She had a vision for her team because the gym that her parents own, always produce top tier athletes. So it's never just her representing her gym at these competitions. She's got her whole team around her. Right. She wanted everyone to wear white and everyone had a different accent color. And that was all she gave me, but that was fine. That was plenty. That was enough. I think it was just so cool that she had a vision, and she tended to have like a very concrete vision like that throughout the time that I've worked with her. It definitely got more decisive as the years have gone on, which I think is so cool. And I just feel honored to have been with her for that long. She really trusts me and my design team to come up with something amazing for her that she's going to look beautiful in. I mean, she looks beautiful in everything, but totally something that she's going to feel really confident in, that she doesn't have to think about her leotard anymore. So yeah, I just think her decisiveness is like one of my favorite things about her.
Oh, I love that. Okay, we have to tell listeners, because I was really crushed about the beam finals, and I know you were there, and you had you kind of brought me into what was going on. So maybe just share with listeners what was going on that day, and folks who are in gymnastics, if the lead girl does not stick and has bobbles, it really can ripple through. And I sounded like that was one of those days, but you were there. So share with us that day.
Yeah. So most gymnastics competitions, well, really every other one that I've been to, now granted, this was the only Olympics I've ever been to, but every other major competition, there's always background music. Not loud, but normally there's all the apparatus are happening at the same time. Well, in event finals, it's only that one apparatus, but there's still usually very light background noise. The arena was so silent that you could hear the shutters of the cameras going off, like from across the arena. It wasn't like a cameraman sitting right next to me. It was like, you could tell they were far away. You could hear every click of the camera. So, I mean, the athletes have said it themselves, but I could imagine sitting in that moment, like, this has got to be nerve-wracking. Like they could hear themselves breathe. Yeah. So I can imagine that led to, what we saw happen. And it's heartbreaking because, that's the biggest world stage. But yeah, it was so silent. It was like weird.
Yeah, I could that when you said that to me, I'm like, oof, I can see that playing a big role.
People were shushing.
Yeah.
Like, which was weird. Like there were people rightfully like cheering and clapping at the appropriate moments, but then other people were shushing them. I feel like that got really distracting too.
Wow. Okay, let me segue, because of this living the dream. It includes our fabulous family. So just, meeting your husband, you're driven, you're decisive. You got a young family. Just talk to us about, having the whole picture.
Yeah. So my husband and I met at CrossFit. So I saw him doing pull-ups and I was like, yeah, that's the one. I love it. So we both just are very driven people. My husband owns a grocery store. He co-owns it with a couple of his cousins. And that in itself is really cool, just to have a partner who also understands like work and being driven in a career, because the grocery business is no joke. Like that's 7 days a week. Like they don't close. They're not even closed on Christmas. So I think I'm really lucky in that regard, that he is very supportive of having a wife who is very driven, and didn't want to give up her career when we had kids. So we have 2 little kids. We have a 3.5-year-old boy and an almost 2-year-old girl. So back to back, and they are definitely kicking my butt. But I think having a husband who knows how important my career is to me as well, and just we're teammates in this together, has helped me really have it all. Have the relationship, have the kids, and have the career of my dreams.
That's so amazing. As you know, this is relatively new in. What has being a mom, what have you learned in being a mom? Maybe what you've learned from work that's helped you or from being a mom that's helped you at work?
Patience, which I'm just naturally not a very patient person. So I do think having kids has helped me be more patient, and I've carried that into work as well. Being efficient. I think there's something about Cornell, I think, that has taught me how to juggle multiple things at once and being a really good multitasker. That has helped me in my career, and then has also carried into motherhood. Um, in like all the ways. um, so yeah, but I do think, just taking it back to Elite Sportswear and the leadership at the current leadership at Elite Sportswear is so family focused. That's family first. And so I think that has also really helped me have it all. That they're totally understanding of, when my babies were really little and I didn't want to put them in daycare right away, I was able to work from home and take care of them at the same time 2 days a week. And then my mom came 3 days a week to take care of them so I could go to the office, things like that. Just having that village, yes, in my personal life, but also having it reinforced in my professional life too, just makes it that much easier. And at the beginning, you said, that I don't seem stressed, and I think I hide it pretty well, but I'm definitely internally stressed, like probably all the time. But my mom always tells me to just live moment by moment. And while I also don't do that naturally, I do remind myself of that. So I think that's what helps me get through it all.
Well, I love your awareness and your ability to reflect, Jeannie, and just kind of take it. And it's huge because you can't be successful in all these dimensions with all the cylinders cranking without that ability, I think, to really listen and be honest with yourself. And that's not easy. I will give a plug for Cornell. Nothing I have done after Cornell has been hard. It was really the greatest training ground in terms of just confidence building and just, push comes to shove, I know that I will figure it out, right? And it may not be pretty the whole time, but I'll get there. And it was funny, I was reading an article someone posted about putting people first in private equity firms. And so this is the thing. When you really fundamentally as a culture do prioritize people that are the ones who create the work and make you successful, shocking how that works. Right. And so it takes real leadership because it can be easy to do shorter term decisions that might make the project better or what have you. But when you can think about the entire system and how do we serve the families at work and the families at home, you get these kinds of cultures, like you're saying. These people have been there 20 and 30 plus years. Yep. And it's an enduring competitive advantage. So really kudos. I'd love to chat with a CEO because I just think that's a really wonderful example for a business that can really sustain. Yeah. I'm curious, you're doing this all, and I'm like, yeah, you have another Olympics, but what are your own career aspirations or design aspirations? Oh my God, I would love to design X. I'm curious, what comes to you when you think about the future?
Growing up, always wanted to be a wedding dress designer.
Oh my God.
So I'm going to throw this out there into the universe. There's another pretty amazing Cornell alum named Haley Page. We overlapped at Cornell 1 year. So she was a senior when I was a freshman. And she, without knowing it, really, really inspired me. She did her senior collection was all wedding gowns, and it was just the most impeccably designed, just incredible collection from a student. And I knew like just she was going to go on and do amazing things. I would love to like somehow do a collaboration with her, because I know like she um has a gymnastics background. She was a gymnast at Cornell.
Oh, wow.
And she like on her Instagram, when we revealed all the Olympic Leos, she like did a shout out to me, which was like so sweet. And just she did not have to do that, but she did. And I just feel like I love how Cornell alums really support each other. But yeah, I think it would be so cool to do a collaboration with her at some point in my design career, whether it's professionally or something on the side. Like that would be amazing.
I love that you put it out in the universe, because then it has a chance to like percolate and manifest. Jeannie, that's like amazing. I love it. Okay, we could go on forever and ever, because we're going to bring it to a wrap here. So first I'm going to ask you, assuming you are exactly where you are, okay, so everything's cranking along, is there a do-over or even regret that you might share with us?
I don't have a single regret. I know that sounds like so cheesy, but I think every mistake and every kind of, I don't know, experience that I've had has led me to this moment. Like maybe I would say I don't need to stress so much, but I think in a weird sick way that's helped me stay focused. So I don't have any regrets, and I think the details, the path that I took to get to this end goal has maybe changed in through the years. Like I thought I'd be working in New York, things like that. But I think allowing myself to make those changes along my path has led to the success at the end.
Yeah, it's spectacular. So there's been so many, but is there a particular proudest accomplishment?
I mean, my kids because they're really the future, and I see so much potential in them, and hopefully they do even greater things than I've done. But I'd say it's like probably a three-way tie between my kids, my marriage, and my career goal of going to the Olympics. I have Lisa Frank diaries of when I was like maybe 6, 7 years old, where I write in there that I want to go to the Olympics. And now, granted, I thought I was going to go as a gymnast, but that was my goal. It was my goal forever, and I think accomplishing that goal, it's like something that I need to remind myself of, like, wait, you did that. Like you're making your 7-year-old self like so proud.
You go, girl. That is so crazy. Crazy. So, okay, rapid fire. If you weren't this dream designer that you are, what profession would you do in your next life?
I would still be a designer, but I would probably be a wedding dress designer.
Can't let it go. Okay, any nicknames you can share with us?
Jeans.
Jeez, that's a good one. And a favorite food or a favorite cuisine?
Oh, Italian.
No brainer. I love that. And you shared a lot, and I had you walk down memory lane a little bit. Do you have a top takeaway as you've reflected on your journey to date?
Just to allow yourself to dream really big.
Yeah. And lastly, my friend, what was it like for you to sit with me and share your journey?
Oh my gosh. Amazing. When I was a little kid, like I remember thinking, well, I want to be a designer because my name will be famous, but like my face won't be famous. So I could still like go outside and be a normal person.
Thinking ahead. Look at how practical you are.
Yeah. So where I'm far from famous, but like just being recognized for these really amazing accomplishments and hopefully being able to inspire somebody else, even if it's just one other person, just this platform, I think is an amazing way to potentially be able to do that.
You are a star you are, shining so brightly. I want to thank you for sharing generously. You're on just this amazing journey. And in many ways, so much accomplished, but so much, in the future here. And you are a poster child for Say It Skillfully because you found your authentic voice, as you've shown us. And it's a life-changing skill. It benefits your career, your relationships, every single thing you do. So, Jeanne, I really appreciate you and how you are part of the solution, helping us all to be safe, seen, and heard in our true and very, very best selves. And not that you need any help, but if I can do anything little for you, I am here for you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we'll cross paths. You take good care.
Thank you.
Ciao, ciao, ciao. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, my final thought, of course, has to be from the awe-inspiring Simone Biles. If they said do 5 pull-ups, I would always want to do 10. And that's a wrap, folks. Thank you for joining us. Please be part of the solution and kindly share this show. Amplify Jeannie's voice. Reflect on your top takeaways. And know I'm cheering for you to be who you are and skillfully say what needs to be said so that you and those around you have the shared reality that makes work and life a whole lot better.